Hello, friends. Welcome to Spike Week. I'm Erik Beimfohr. It's week one, and that means it's time to get your survivor entries ready. That's right. Today, myself and Rob Coakley are going to break down our favorite macro level survivor pool strategies, both for the big, huge tournaments like over at Splash Sports, as well as your home leagues, your small leagues with your buddies and your high school friends, your survivor tournaments there. We're going to talk about some different tactics that you can employ in these tournaments to get different, navigate your way through this gauntlet that is a survivor pool, as well as our favorite week one picks. That's right. We're going to get into week one and talk about what the chalk is and maybe some ways to get different, our favorite picks for week one. So let's get to the show. All right, Rob, survivor show number one here at Spike Week, but I'm excited to dive into some survivor talk this year. Of course, we got a fun little theme going on here, as we tend to do, have a little bit of fun with some silly themes here. But there's a lot more survivor like contests out there nowadays. We got Splash Sports. We got all sorts of two different people sent me links to other survivor pools today. One of my home leagues, we do like a survivor league alongside it. You can do them on Sleeper. You can do it. Survivor is taking over, and it is a ton of fun. So we wanted to do some weekly content every week here over the course of the 2025 season, just to dive into some stuff. I know you're really big into the survivor space. I think you had a really sick run last year. If I recall, we did a little talk last year and just begged everyone to not take the Bengals in week one of last season. And so I think we got off to our one piece of survivor advice last year was a big hit. So hopefully we can continue it on into 2025.
Yeah, last year I got to week 17 and had a big decision to make that week and ended up losing, but I have won 2 survivor pools in the past, one really big one. Ended up having to chop it like 40 ways or something, so that dwindles the $500,000 or whatever it was at the time to a different number, but it was still a pretty good hit. I love Survivor. I think it is one of the games that we're starting to see more of, as you said. I think it is also an overly exploitable game because we talk about level one thinking in best ball. The level one thought process that goes into Survivor is more so than any other form of football gambling that I think there is. People want to pick the highest spread and be done, which is sometimes that's what you have to do on certain weeks, but a lot of times it is the absolute stone wrong thing to do in a week. So I'm excited to talk about it.
And that is specifically right what happened last year. Everybody sorted by spread in week one. The Bengals were the big favorite. The Patriots were bad. The Bengals are not necessarily a team maybe that's the other thing, right, that comes into it from most people is the biggest spread with maybe a team that I would love to hold on to the Chiefs. I would love to hold on to the Ravens. So give me the highest spread with the worst team, essentially, which is what exactly like you just said, can lead you down a really scary path because you're not taking, it's a high spread, but especially early in the season, as we know, these spreads can be faulty, right? It's not that the market's like thinking about it wrong. It's just we just don't know a lot about the teams heading into the season, even in the NFL where we know more than say college football or something. But speaking of college football, right? Just this past weekend, Alabama, 2 touchdown favorites against Florida State. Absolutely disastrous 2024 Alabama. This is the bounce back season. Nope.
Nope.
Right by Florida State. And the TCU plays last night. We're recording this on a Tuesday. TCU plays North Carolina at North Carolina. The big Bill Belichick. He's back in college football. Woof. 3-point spread for TCU was not enough. Spoiler alert. And so we just don't know a lot at the beginning of the season. Before we dive into week one, obviously, since you've had a ton of success, especially in recent seasons, is there anything other than this kind of course, we're going to get into a lot of game theory talk and such, but is there anything just like from an overall strategy perspective, especially in like some of these big, like Splash Sports, we can pull up a couple of those contests as we talk too. Is there anything specifically strategy-wise that you kind of think is a little bit of a pillar of your game?
Yeah, I think there's 2 major things that you want to look into when you're playing survivor pools. The first thing is, well, maybe 3. You don't always want to be with the field on it because this ties into point 2. You want to be able to provide leverage. throughout the season. And if everybody takes the Philadelphia Eagles this week, for example, and you don't, the amount of leverage you're providing in a future week, like when the picks start to dry up and you still have the Eagles on your team selection, and now they're the biggest favorite, but nobody else can take them, that's when you get to pounce on those favorites, right? Because 70% of the field's already wasted, or not wasted, but used that pick. And now they're scrambling to try to figure something out with murky situation for there. So that's why that level one thinking is like, you don't always want to be with the field. You want to provide leverage. The other thing, a lot of these pools now are using double picks on certain weeks. So you're not just picking one team, you're picking two in a certain week. So you got to be you really need to read the rules of whichever tournament you're playing. And I'm noticing it more and more that a lot of these tournaments, like we're going to look at maybe one or two. I'm going to show you guys the one that I'm going to be playing this year. But the Big Splash, they have a $2.5 million guaranteed prize pool, which is awesome. But if you look at the rules of that, it's $150 buy-in. And you need to look that I think it's week 11 on is all double picks. So you're trying to pick. It's hard enough to pick one team to win every week. When you add in double picks, it becomes like next level hard. So be aware of the rules of the league that you are playing in for sure.
It's a great shout, and we'll just use this one as an example. Obviously, there's tons, and if you're just in like a small group with your buddies, it's a little bit different than the big tournaments will be a little bit more focused on some of these kind of bigger tournaments. But I think a lot of it is still applicable to your your home leagues and stuff, just at a different scale, of course. And as you mentioned, Splash has this $2.5 million, crazy, and also they got a little ways to go to fill this sucker by Thursday. So, or by I guess Monday, of course, you can enter all the way up until the Monday night games. But still, I mean, 5,000 entries. It is a guaranteed prize pool, right? These sites have to guarantee the prizes, so could be advantageous. And we make no money by promoting Splash Sports. We just play it ourselves. So some overlay to chase there. But just like Rob says, you read the about this contest, said just read through this, right? And of your home league as well. Can you rebuy? Can you not rebuy? All sorts of different rules across all of these contests, but making sure you understand, I think specifically, like you said, like how many picks do you have to make? And the leverage component is such a big one that you called out just from a strategy perspective, that I think before we start to dive into week one is like, it's not just that week that leverage thing matters. That of course matters, right? If you just fade the Bengals last year and a bunch of the people took the Bengals and you took someone else, clearly if the Bengals do get upset, that's huge. That's right. That's ideal. But what is also, there's trickle down effects to fading the chalk, especially early in the season. And that is saving those teams. Just fewer people have those teams left later. And so you're just, it's like we talk again, you mentioned, we talk about that in best ball. We talk about that in DFS. Like you would say, like flipping the build in those two games where you're like, let's take someone who goes on one side of the board in a best ball draft and move them to the other side. In DFS, everyone's paying up for Christian McCaffrey and whoever, Jonathan Taylor. It's like, well, let's spend down there and let's go get Jamar Chase and let's go get Drake London. And so you can do that in this game of Survivor too. And it's honestly even more effective because it's like the most direct leverage that you can possibly have, where it's like absolutely the specific leverage that you target in these games. And also it's so underutilized by the field. Like no matter how there's millions of dollars up for grabs, no matter how sharp your opponents are, like overall the people still pile on to kind of the same teams even more so than they do in these other games.
Yeah. The other rule I just want to point out for tournaments to be aware of, no matter where you enter, know when your pick has to be in by. If your pick, there are some leagues, it's not on this one, but on certain ones, your pick has to be on by the Thursday night game, which are just leagues that I will not play in anymore. I think it's a silly rule. So make sure you know that as well. And just to piggyback off of what you were saying, some more on that, not only are you providing leverage when you go away from the field, but there are players that will pick the biggest spread that they can pick every week. And that's a big chunk of the field. So when those people do actually win, what do they win? They win 300-way chop, and the money just isn't worth it. So not only does it provide you leverage, it also provides you a better payout. You're just playing the game in a smarter way. So again,
Great point.
not every week, but most weeks you want to be looking at, like, is there an edge and stuff like that. And there's a few other things that I personally look for. I have like some rules that aren't hard rules, but like I don't like to combine certain things. We'll talk about that as we go through the um tournament though.
So let's super quickly pull up. We'll pull up the week one schedule just from a the schedule and the betting lines, and just run down. Everyone can go look this up. Of course, I will use Scores and Odds, a Roto Grinders affiliate, which we have ties to, and we start with the Thursday night game. It is up to Eagles -8.5. Shout out to me, got in on that one at -7. I know this isn't a betting show, but nonetheless, Eagles by 1 million on Thursday night. I think everybody is feeling that. I would imagine in week one also people are very excited for the Thursday night game. You get a little more instant action from people on Thursday nights. I'm just speculating, but also it sets up to be a bloodbath. So
it's twofold on that real quick, because not only is it people are excited, but a lot of the tournaments you're in, Thursday and Friday night games, you can lose and you can rebuy before the Sunday games. It's the only week that you're able to do that.
Yep.
So you do see higher ownership concentration on those games. And this isn't a particular game I would do it for, but like if you wanted to get even more leverage, this is just going super game theory. Last year, everyone wanted to take the Chiefs over the Ravens because they were the favorites. If you want to provide leverage and you're willing to rebuy, the way to do it would have been to take the Ravens over the Chiefs. So like these are all the little things you need to be thinking about as you go through this.
Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be advising the Dallas Cowboys in this spot for that, unless you really just have the money to burn and would like to be miserable for. I would recommend to go to your local animal rescue and donate that to $100 or whatever it is that you are going to do, rather than betting on Jerry's Cowboys. But nonetheless, then obviously we get the Chiefs and Chargers. Chiefs up to currently -3. Obviously, these are just kind of not every book will 100% match this, but you get the point. Steelers Jets, the old snooze fest of week one. Steelers -3 on the road. Dolphins go to Indy, and the Colts are -1.5. Panthers on the road at the Jaguars. Jaguars -3.5. The Giants. God, we got some closing line value here, brother. This is not going to go well in week one. Bet the Giants at +7. They are down to +6 at Washington. The Bengals, the aforementioned Bengals, -5.5 on the road at Cleveland. The Raiders +2.5 on the road against the New England Patriots. Week one Masters from last season. Arizona goes to New Orleans. Notable, of course, because of the New Orleans Saints expectations this year, -6.5. Tampa Bay -2.5 at Atlanta. Tennessee +7.5 on the road at the Denver Broncos. So one of the higher spreads there as well. 49ers -2.5 at Seattle. Whatever. Detroit +2.5 at the Green Bay Packers. That'll be fun in the afternoon. And the Houston Texans also +2.5 at the Los Angeles Rams. Then we get to the primetime action. The Baltimore Ravens +1.5 at Buffalo, and the Vikings -1.5 at Chicago. So where do you want to start here with week one?
Let's just pull up the board real quick, and let's remove your screen and put mine on here, and we'll look at the actual board that we have for the picks. And I think we
on
need
Splash. For anybody that hasn't seen this before, this is on Splash.
Yeah. So I'm doing the tournament that I'm doing. I can provide a link. It's $100 buy-in, and it does have double picks, I believe, weeks 15, 16, 17. But that's based on the percentage of the pool that's left. So like if more than 2% of the pool is left, it will be double picks. If it's less, it won't be, which I think is awesome to do, because it provides a little bit better of a balance. So I can it's not a guarantee tournament, but there's already $170,000 in the prize pool. So I don't know how much of a guarantee you need, but 170,000 in my pocket will be fine for me. And the person that won this pool last year, this is the one I got to week 17. One person won this pool last year, and they won hundreds of thousands of dollars. So
amazing.
So I think that we need to start with what we think is going to be chalk this week. And if we think chalk is worth it. Um, Before we get into the chalk, here's a couple of my rules. These are very like easy rules, and I don't always abide by them. I try not to take a road team if I don't have to.
Mhm.
I prefer a home edge, and I try not to take divisional matchups if I don't have to. And the last one is I really try never to take a West Coast team traveling east. Now, there's different weeks that stuff happens and you have to take one of those situations. I definitely try not to combine multiple situations on there.
Road favorite traveling from the West Coast to the
Yeah.
East Coast at noon or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the stuff that I'm trying to avoid if possible. You will not always be able to. Sometimes you have to take divisional matchups. Sometimes you just have to take certain things, especially as the season progresses. I think the biggest chalk this week is going to be Denver. I mean, it lines up great, but I think Denver's a strong team this year. And if 30 to 40% of our pools or more are jumping on Denver this week, I think they're going to be a hell of a team to be able to leverage later in the season. Maybe even week 2. I haven't looked at week 2 schedule, but like just from that point on, just having the Denver leverage could be insanely massive. So I think that Denver is going to be pretty overweight, not as much as they normally would be, because I think some are going to pounce on the Thursday night game with the Eagles more so than usually would. But I think the Broncos are going to come in at high ownership this week. They're the biggest
So
favorite on the board. I just think
I
people
was
are going to click the button.
I was just going to add, I'm looking at there's a site called Pool Genius, so like team rankings and the team rankings network, if you will, Bet IQ, and they have a Pool Genius, which is great for like March Madness pools and stuff as well. But they do Survivor stuff. I'm not going to share it. I think it's all free right now, but it's going behind the paywall. So I just don't want to share all of their data because it's a lot of like really good stuff. Like they have their own odds. They obviously pull in the market odds. They have projected ownership and then like expected value. They have something called a future value, right? So how valuable is that team to hold on to? Obviously it's a lot of just the best teams, but there's a little bit of nuance to that with schedule and ownership and everything baked in there. So check out Pool Genius. Again, we're not affiliated with them. It's just a really good product. But they have projected ownership that I'm comfortable sharing because I think it also is fit. It's logical. And they have the Broncos at 28%. These are kind of like DFS ownership projections where it gets neutered a little bit because they don't want to, your depending upon your pool, depending upon, is this a home league thing or whatever, these can vary, but I think the order is like the thing that matters the most, right? Like in DFS, that's what I always say. This guy's going to be the chalkiest, but in the Millie Maker, he's going to be 25%, and in the Thunderdome, he's going to be 60, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like it's that kind of thing. So that's the Broncos as they're basically double any other team.
Yeah.
So I would totally agree with you. And then I'll just mention a couple of more just to get that conversation rolling. The Eagles, as we mentioned, they have at number 2. The Cardinals at number 3, which I think you would also, that's the Saints, right? Matchup. And then Washington is the other. Those 4 are like kind of gapping the field from an ownership perspective. So from my end, after those guys, I kind of don't care. That's where I sort of draw the line. Those 4, well, obviously Washington is at home against the Giants. Arizona is on the road, but it is the New Orleans Saints. Eagles, right, opener against the Cowboys, and the Broncos with the huge spread at home against the Tennessee Titans. So I think that's where you start from an ownership perspective.
Yeah. And you look at like that Commanders game, that's a divisional matchup. I mean, do I expect the Commanders to win? Yes. Of course, we expect the Broncos to win, but that's what we said about the Bengals last year.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things that happened in survivor pools last year was the Bengals losing week 1. The other one that I remember offhand was the Ravens losing to the Raiders when they were just an absolute favorite there. So again, they don't have to lose. You're providing leverage just by being off of them if you advance as well. And that's the stuff that we're looking for. So all those matchups you said are correct. Cardinals are on the road on that one. The Eagles is a divisional matchup. It is what it is. That's a Thursday night game. So I have a team that I really like this week that I think is going to be relatively low owned. I'm curious what your data is saying on them. They're a home favorite against a team that is murky. not that this team isn't a little murky, but I really like the Jaguars in week 1 against the Carolina Panthers for survivor pools. Like this is like I'm probably going to enter 2 teams into this $100 one, and one of them is definitely going to be the Jaguars, unless Trevor Lawrence blows his knees out between now and Sunday. I'm taking Jacksonville for one of my 2 picks for sure, and I just curious your thoughts on that.
So we did not talk about, I promise, we did not talk about this, like our strat. We talked that we were going to do the show, but we didn't talk about our strategy and our picks and all that kind of stuff before this. And my like exact take that I was going to bring here is I think the Jaguars are the best pick on the board. All things considered, as you mentioned, if they check all of your boxes that you have there, and like those are nice to have, right? It's like a checklist. It's like you don't have to hit everything on your checklist, but those are things that are nice to have or nice to fade, right? I'm excited about the Jaguars overall heading into this season. Like they're not going to win the Super Bowl, but Liam Cohen, I think, is a really nice, but not nice, like a significant upgrade over what Urban Meyer and Doug Peterson to Liam Cohen is a very big upgrade. Travis Hunter is a very big upgrade to both sides of the football. We'll see how much he plays. They've made some overall talent upgrades. They are at home, and the Carolina Panthers, while they've made some small upgrades, I don't think it's quite to the extent of what the Jaguars have, and they've been dealing with a bunch of injuries while also trading away. Adam Thielen is not some huge difference maker, but it's not nothing. And then they lost Jalen Coker, and they've kind of been, it's kind of been a tumultuous training camp for the Panthers. So now they got to go on the road. It's probably going to be warm in Jacksonville. And I just think when you get them as the 7th or 8th most picked team in week 1 compared to all of these other spots, the Jaguars definitely stand out to me.
Right. Yeah. So
that's what the projections are saying, by the way, somewhere around 7th highest.
And it's a team you want to get out of the way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like you just want to be like, if you win with the Jaguars, you feel relieved, you provide your leverage, and then you don't have to worry
about that team again.
Yeah. It's just one of those ones where it's like, I don't even have to look at the Jaguars in the future, and they're good. And I don't know if they're going to get a better spot than at home week 1, as healthy as they can be against the Carolina Panthers. So I think it's just like the easiest pick in terms of getting off the chalk, providing leverage, and setting yourself up to go on a good run throughout a Survivor tournament.
Just super quickly, I'm not sure there is another spot for them the rest of the year. It would have to be the home game against the Colts, but that's a late season divisional matchup. I don't want to be banking on that. It's not like Trevor Lawrence is a picture of health. So that they are the lesser owned version of, and certainly less probable to win. The Panthers are the Panthers are better than the New Orleans Saints, but they are the home version of the chalk Arizona Cardinals that everyone is picking, like, because you also don't want to be really using, we don't want to be using Arizona necessarily later in the season either. These are 2 mediocre teams. You can give me, in terms of I'm ranking them as my favorite picks, the Jaguars over an Arizona team.
Yeah, I agree. And my backup pick I wish it was an October game more than the first week of the season, but I do like the Patriots at home against the Raiders this week as well. It's West Coast team traveling east. First week of the season, I don't think that matters quite as much. I still think it has a little bit of variable, but the Raiders are transitioning. The Patriots are transitioning under new head coaches and stuff. Home field advantage, I think, is very important in this particular game. I would not take the Patriots on the road in this spot.
Right.
But I think Drake May, that Patriots offense looks somewhat decent. Vrabel will have them playing, at least mediocre defense against the Raiders. I think the Raiders still need to establish a lot of things on the offensive side of the ball going forward. There's a lot of moving pieces on that side. We know we like Brock Bowers. What else is that offense going to look like? What is that identity going to be? I don't think they'll know week 1. So I think that if I'm making 2 picks this week, which I am at the current moment, it's probably going to be Jaguars Patriots, and let the chips lie where they may at that point.
I completely agree. It's another very similar spot where I think it's actually going to be kind of a fun game, which is like not necessarily what you want from a Survivor perspective, but I think two teams kind of in similar boats, and give me the home team, where I also think the Patriots, as you mentioned, are going to make strides on both sides of the football. We're going to get second year Drake May. We're going to get the coaching upgrade. And I think the Raiders got a coaching upgrade too. And they got a quarterback upgrade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Raiders project to be one of the worst defenses in the league. And now the Patriots aren't going to bounce back to old school, top of the league defense on that side. But I think it's going to be much more respectable this year than it was last year, with just the upgrades they've made from a talent perspective and the coaching staff. So I think you're getting you're double dipping on the upgrades plus the home field advantage, plus this team's coming from California over out to New England. You kind of check a lot of those boxes as well for the Patriots. And again, people are not interested in picking New England, even lower owned than Jacksonville is. So that's we are on the exact same page. That's where my head is at. If I had to pick one of the super chalky teams, I would say that I think eating the absolute Denver chalk is not what I want to do, but that division is a little bit tricky. If someone says, look, I'm just going to do it, give me one of the actual, I don't want to do the Jags thing or whatever. I get the Denver Broncos thing. I'm not sure exactly how many times I'm going to want to use them. They made the playoffs last year. The schedule is a little bit tougher. There is never a good game to use that. They do have the home field advantage, so maybe that gets a little bit trickier. But if I just want to lock in a win, there is no such thing. Of course, the Cardinals on the road has me real spooked. I'm not particularly interested in that one. So I just wanted to throw out if you absolutely feel you don't want to get into one of these lesser owned teams, that's where my head's at.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But again, just keep in mind how many people are going to be picking that team. And then your pathway starts to turn into their pathway. And then you really need to find leverage points later. So I agree with you in that aspect. I do kind of like the Cardinals on the road against the Saints. I know that's not one of my rules. The Saints are pretty bad. The Cardinals are one of those. Cardinals are one of those teams that we don't love. But for me, I know it's the Jaguars, and I think very easily the Patriots are going to be my second pick this year.
I love it. I love it. So that'll do it for us here. Week 1, we'll try to keep these reasonable. You don't need to. We don't need to dive into every single game, but we'll be back in week 2, hopefully with a Jaguars and a Patriots win, and we'll see what an upset's coming. I don't know which one it's going to be, but a big upset is for sure coming in week 1. I can't wait to talk about it in week 2. But we'll see you guys in just a week, and enjoy week 1.